What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so shout out to the sports and political channel LB. He already did a video talking about this. I think it was yesterday. African diaspora talked about this. So, you may recall yesterday I did a video talking about how MSNBC's ratings have fallen off a cliff since Election Day. And overall, their ratings have been down generally this year, although they had a big spike going into this election. But it's downhill since then. As a matter of fact, as I said, their ratings have plummeted since Election Day, to the point where their parent company, Comcast, reportedly is seriously considering selling MSNBC among other networks. Reports are now coming in that CNN, in a move to cut their losses, will be axing their top stars amid their ratings decline. So reading from an article, and this article is from MSN.com. CNN axing top stars amid plummeting ratings that'll see hundreds fired. Cable news network CNN is reportedly planning to engage in mass layoffs after it has continued to see ratings plummet. A new report says that some of those getting the boot will include some of the highest paid staff, including some network stars. The network has seen declining ratings for some time, and things haven't improved following election season, which saw them as the live broadcasters for President Joe Biden's controversial remarks, seen as calling President-elect Donald Trump supporters garbage. In addition, it has taken some controversial viewpoints, including about Elon Musk's relationship to the Trump family and whether or not the 47th president, quote, will grow tired of the ex-owner. The coverage of the election didn't allegedly help the network rebuild its ratings numbers, and amid other shocking decisions regarding top talent, more is set to come. According to an explosive new report, executives are planning on unleashing a sweeping round of layoffs next. Following the departures of Chris Wallace and denial of raises to Wolf Blitzer and Jake Tapper, some of the highest paid stars could be on the chopping block. So look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the guys who make the most money are the ones who are probably the most vulnerable. I'm assuming their highest paid stars are people like Anderson Cooper, Aaron Burnett. If they said Wolf Blitzer, who's already like 76 or something, so they may force him into semi-retirement. Jake Tapper, Van Jones. So these are people that I would assume are kind of on their way out. And look, as we've all said this before, conventional television is declining and has been declining for quite some time. It's been declining for at least 15 years, maybe longer than that, as far as ratings. And to be honest with you, quality of TV, quality of their program, I should say. So a lot of these people have been recognizing this shift. A lot of people who are in traditional media, if you've noticed, they've all, for the most part, have moved over to social media and podcasting because that's what people are watching right now. Podcasts, streaming sites, social media. They're not watching television anymore. And a part of me finds this very, very fulfilling, because I remember 10 years ago, a little bit longer than that now, I would say 12 years ago, 13 years ago, you would often hear a lot of these people over there on television speak very condescendingly and oftentimes disrespectfully of people on social media, saying that we're just a bunch of people in our basements who don't know what we're talking about. uh, you know, saying sometimes downright elitist comments. And look at them now. They're all scurrying to social media because television is in a free fall. Now, aside from that general trend, CNN is just awful at this point, man. I mean, this is what, the third, excuse me. This is the third presidential election I've seen in a row where CNN basically were rooting for one candidate over the other. And then, it reminded me of 2016 watching Jake Tapper and the crew basically fishing for votes for Kamala. They did that in 2016. Like, they're looking for outstanding votes for her to come back. And then they were the last network to call the election for Trump. And I did notice some things. I noticed, for instance, certain states, they called immediately for Kamala. And I'm not talking about like the deep blue states like California, New York, although New York wasn't as deeply blue as usual. I'm not talking about states like California, New York, Hawaii, Maryland or Washington, D.C. I'm talking about states like, what's a good example? I noticed that, for instance, like they called Minnesota, right? What was it, about 50-some% in? They called Minnesota for Kamala, but it took them forever to call Michigan. Like, it was 99.9% in before they called Michigan, when all the other networks had called Michigan probably 4 hours earlier, 3 to 4 hours earlier. It's just that crap, man. Just like what happened with Trump in July, when he almost got taken out. MSNBC, for a long time, refused to even call it an attempt. They said an incident. So it's like, you can clearly see that there's a bias there. Now, people can be biased all they want to, but you shouldn't be taken seriously as a legitimate news network if there's a serious slant in your coverage. That's the problem we all have with Fox News, right? But you can't sit up there and hate Fox News for being biased and then out-bias Fox News with MSNBC, and then you all cool with that, So it's there, man. And then, some of these people, it's just gotten to a point now where MSNBC is really bad with this now. Some of these people, I'm getting tired of like, one of the reasons why I stopped watching MSNBC is that, look, I could recognize that they had positive coverage of Barack Obama and most Democrats, right? But then it got to a point where it got kind of ridiculous. It got like really ridiculous. I don't like when a network completely demonizes the other side. And then to a certain extent, in my opinion, networks like CNN and MSNBC do have blood on their hands, because if you constantly watch that type of programming, which completely demonizes the other side all the time, and that was my problem with Fox News. Although Fox News has tried to like get a little less vicious, but they're guilty of that shit too. You tend to brainwash, and then you can have a tendency to radicalize viewers. You know what I'm saying? To the point where it goes beyond mere political disagreements. Don't get me wrong, political disagreements can get really heated, but then they get to a point where you're starting to wish harm on people, or, more than harm. And that goes for both sides. Fox News is guilty of that too. So look, I guess, some of these people are going to be, getting the axe. I don't know, but, I've always thought CNN has been horrible since the day. To be honest with you, CNN has not been great, in my opinion, since what's his name passed away. Oh man, what is his name? Bernard Shaw. Ever since the days of Bernard Shaw, ever since he left the scene, it's been a slow decline. Bernard Shaw was part of he's probably my favorite anchor ever. You know what I'm saying? That's when you knew the news was quality. I don't know what his personal preference is. I'm assuming he probably was a Democrat, considering the area that he grew up in, but you never saw a bias with him. He treated everybody fairly. His questions were fair. Hell, you could argue he was tougher on Democrats because remember he was the one that asked Michael Dukakis that question about his wife Kitty. As far as that the issue of abortion. So the news was fair then, but then something happened where I guess in order to compete with Fox News, and they saw a ratings uptick when they were becoming more attacking of the Bush administration and the Iraqi war, you started seeing more of a slant toward liberal news coverage, liberal news anchors, and the coverage became more slant toward them. But at the end of the day, it just got so ridiculous. And it hasn't helped them. Not really. Not CNN. CNN has long been seen as a running joke, But anyway, I guess these people be all right. I don't feel sorry for them. But that's just what's happened. Like, these networks have gone from being seen as one-time respectable organizations to, with MSNBC and CNN, they become a Democratic lying machine. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.